Hello everybody, I'm Bill Leslie, back again with Paul and Sarah Lang today, talking about the road that led you to Cary. I guess you could have stayed out in Fargo for years and years. I mean, you loved it out there,
Yeah.
but you were called to Cary apparently.
Yeah.
How did that happen? What drew you to this area?
Well, we were, in many ways very content in Fargo because people were so kind to us and we had such a good experience there. And yet we did find ourselves sort of looking eastward, as happens. And, we had conversations with quite a number of churches up and down the East Coast, and I kept waiting for that conversation that felt like God was in it. Even some of those conversations with other churches were a good way of discovering where I wasn't called, right? So you get in that conversation, and at some point you go, yeah, this is not the right place. And that's helpful too. And, right away when we started talking with the PNC here, it felt like this was a conversation we should take seriously. And, oddly enough, even though COVID sort of interrupted that process partway through, and what might have taken 6 months ended up taking more like 11, that in its own way was a blessing. Because I will tell you, my anxiety about the search process is the way it normally happens is you date once or twice and then you have to get married. I mean, it's so truncated.
It's quick.
And we had this opportunity really starting at the start of COVID all the way into June to meet weekly with the PNC and to talk with them about our dreams. And what that did was, I think, give both to the PNC and to us that sense that they know who I am.
Right.
And that they still want to be in this conversation, right? And so, that was actually very reassuring to me, that I felt like we were coming after a long, deliberative, loving, thoughtful, prayerful conversation where both sides of the conversation were able to ask hard questions, frankly, and to sort of talk about what you need to do.
Right.
What would you add to that?
Well, I would say that we even had time to just hang out.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
it wasn't all, okay, business,
Yeah.
asking, very deep questions about you and how you do things and blah, blah, blah. I mean, we would have Zoom meetings every week where we just kind of
Drink a cup of coffee and chat.
Right.
And that was, you never get to have that.
Yeah.
In the normal process, there's never time for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, now that you're here, what do you hope to accomplish? What are your top priorities?
Yeah.
Where can you help take this congregation?
One of the things that I think Sarah and I both wanted, so this is the fourth congregation that we've served. I likely have another 12 to 15 years in me. And I know that for myself, one of those criteria that I used to try to help me filter the process of search was I wasn't going to go anywhere that I couldn't imagine I could stay there, that we could settle in, grow deep, do good work, and leave a legacy in ministry that you're proud of, right?
Right.
And so we would like to do that here, to settle in, grow deep, learn this congregation and love it fully. And, with any luck at all, the gifts that we bring will match the needs that are felt here. I've spent a good portion of my ordained life, but especially the last 15 years, focused on the question of adult faith formation. How do you take good people and provide them at least the opportunity for a transformative encounter with God? And so I bring that with me. It's a hope I have about the work that I do here, is that we'll make that opportunity available to more and more people at Cary. COVID obviously makes some of that more tricky because we can't gather, but I'll be working toward that end. And just as a way of explaining why, my mother, in my estimation, is one of the great saints of the church. A woman that was extraordinary in many ways. And when she got sick in 2010, she sort of insisted that I take her diaries, her journals, which I I wasn't sure I wanted those. But I'm so glad that I have them now, because one of the things I know is that my mother, late in her 60s, sat down and wrote, I'm going to paraphrase, but this is almost a quote, "I've been in church all of my life doing the things that you should do." She was an elder and all of those things. And she said, "I need to see if I can come to love the God I've known about all my life, but never loved." Now, that is a stunning moment of clarity.
Yeah.
And she got busy looking for God.
Right.
In her case, she did it through a certificate program in a seminary. But what I saw was this remarkable transformation in her life as an experience of faith that had been good enough for a long time,
Sure.
really became the taproot of her life. And it was watching that made me think, as a pastor, how can we who are in charge in churches make these opportunities available to people, right? So that's what I've been up to.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's impressive. What are you excited about in terms of this congregation? I know Sarah, you've been meeting with lots of people, and as you have as well. Paul, what do you see as the strengths here that fit in well with kind of your goals?
Mm-hmm. You want me to go first?
Yeah.
Okay. I can do that.
I mean, I know what I'm thinking, but yeah.
Okay. I am really pleasantly. I am encountering in a very pleasant way a group of lay leaders in this congregation who own the ministry that we're doing, and who provide extraordinary leadership for the ministry teams. And it's not just those chairs that are running that, but the whole teams are really invested in engaging in their faith in a way that you can see the fruit of that. That doesn't happen everywhere. It's common for a church this size to be very staff dependent to get ministry done, and I think that's a great strength of this congregation. I also love the wide set of mission commitments and the depth of those two, in terms of asking, in what way does my faith find lived expression in the world? And it's early, but what I would like to believe is true is that this focus that I have on internal, prayerful faith development is closely connected with that staying healthy as I continue to bear fruit in the world.
Absolutely.
The trouble with either of these alone is that if you only do the bear the fruit in the world, you burn out.
Right.
And if you only do the internal faith formation, it can be very selfish and self-serving. And it seems to me like this is a place where we can live in that dynamic tension of always asking, have I spent enough time alone with God? And then if the answer to that is yes, well, has that helped me love my neighbor better? Right? And this seems like the sort of church where we could engage in that in a serious way. What would you say?
Well, I mean, it's kind of the same thing, but I was thinking of it specifically about the music. I started watching the services here back in March, and I have just been absolutely astounded at the variety and number of different people that share their music with the congregation, even if it's just, playing for Sunday morning service. I've been astounded by how many different people are involved in that, and that you don't have to be, a professional. That's not the point.
Right.
And I love that.
Yeah.
I hope to be a part of that.
Yeah.
What can we do as members of the church to make life easier for you? What are some things we can do for you?
I know my answer, but I'm looking to keep telling me who you are. I feel like I know everybody in the congregation from here up, but it's
Take the mask off and it's like,
it's
who is
so
that person?
peculiar how hard it is to put a name and a face together if you've only seen somebody with the mask. I'm sure that there's a reason for that, developmentally over time. So, yeah, I live in fear all the time of calling someone by the wrong name, or so. Yeah, just be patient with me as I try to get all the names and faces nailed down.
Thank you, Paul. Sarah, how about you?
I forgot what the question was.
Well,
How they could.
what can we do to make life easier for you?
I don't know. I feel like you've already done it. I mean, I have felt so personally welcomed, and I mean, even the fact that I'm a part of these interviews was a little bit surprising to me, because I'm not accustomed to people thinking of ministry as us. He's the preacher, you know. I'm just the spouse. And so I feel like that I've already been so included, and you know, I've been having these weekly meetings with women of the church, and I would exactly the same thing he said. Just today, I was speaking with somebody. She said, I introduced myself. I was the one that pulled my mask on. I was like, okay, well, you have your mask on now, so
Yeah.
But I feel very privileged to be a part of all of that.
We're delighted to have you here. One final question before we wrap this up. Writing books. He's a pretty good writer. Pilgrim's Compass.
Yep.
That's your latest, right?
That is the latest. Yeah.
Do you anticipate more writing? Do you have a couple books left in you? What do you think?
Yeah, I think I probably have some more writing in me. Most of that is going to be in the format of small essays, devotions, those sorts of pieces. Although I have a book manuscript. You may know that Karl Barth, the great Reformed theologian of the 20th century, had a very large set of volumes of theological works called the Church Dogmatics. And I had a beloved Weimaraner who was a part of my life for almost 19 years, who was just a mess. But I kept feeling like God was trying to teach me something through Scout. And so I've actually worked out the chapter titles and all of the scripture and all of that to write a church dogmatics from the doghouse, right? And I may try to get that published before I'm done. Yeah.
Yeah, but you've said that you're not going to do it the way Pilgrim's Compass. That you had deadlines and they paid you for it before you wrote it, and you're going to do it the other way around from now on. You're going to write it, and then if somebody wants it, okay, but
exactly.
You're not going to. Yeah, I think that's a good choice.
I do find that writing is far more joyful and relaxed when I'm not looking at a deadline.
Is that better when you do it on a vacation or a sabbatical or something?
Yeah, you know, I mentioned earlier going to a hermitage for a week, and usually that week was spent with me writing. Yeah, 90% of the time. But I've discovered over the years that I love to write when it's just me and God having fun.
Yeah.
The minute I have an editor
breathing down your
a
neck
check with someone waiting for it, it just somehow the joy gets taken out of it. So I told Sarah that the next one I'll just show up at Westminster John Knox or Upper Room or wherever and say, here it is. If you want it, great. If you don't, that's fine too. But it is what it is.
Well, we look forward to more books and some great sermons and some wonderful music from the Langs.
Thanks.
Talk with you.
It's been great to get to know you. Yeah.